Referrals and networking. This is probably the chapter that I get asked about the most. How do you network? How do you get referrals? What is a referral? For those of you that don't know, referral is basically when an employee at a company refers you to the company and they vouch for your candidacy. And these are incredibly important because it's probably the most important thing to get an interview. Because let's say they're only going to interview 100 people and 100 qualified candidates have referrals and the rest of the people don't. Those 100 candidates are all getting interviews. And that's really kind of what it comes down to. And it's unfair because people who are connected are going to get more referrals, but that's just how the game is. So this chapter, we're really going to go in depth and I'm going to teach you how to network and how to get referrals for every company apply to. And just to really emphasize this, one of the reasons they're so important is, for example, with Google, when you get a referral for Google, you'll actually get an email from Google to apply through a separate portal than everyone else. So when you get a referral, your application goes in a completely separate pile, and we want to make sure your application is in that pile. So there's really 4 different types of people that you can reach out to for a referral. But before we do that, I just want to go into the structure of how this process usually works. So when you get a referral, it doesn't really matter who it is. It doesn't matter what their position is. It doesn't matter what they do. And the quality of the referral can play a part, but what really matters is that you just get one. Because when you get a referral, your application will go into that separate pile, and then it's going to be more likely read by an interviewer. And having a high quality referral will probably help you if you have a low quality resume. But if you have a resume that deserves an interview, ultimately the benefit of that referral is just, it's going to make sure a recruiter actually looks at your resume. And that's really where the importance comes in. But in terms of structure of getting a referral, typically it's going to start off as you want to find someone who you can refer to that can refer you to the company. So anyone that works there, you want to set up a phone call and this is the networking piece of it. And you want to set up a 10 to 15 minute phone call or just asking them a few questions. You want to build kind of a relationship with them. And in this networking call, you just want to ask questions about the company and etc. And other things. But after the phone call towards the end, you want to just ask them, do you mind referring my resume? And that's going to be the typical process. And we're going to go more in depth in this in a little bit. But I just wanted to establish that basic structure with you. So the first type of person that you can get a referral from is anyone in your first degree network. These are going to be the people that you personally know. So this is going to be the easiest. This is going to be the best. You have a relationship with these people. These are your buddies you can just text and get a referral from. So an example is when I applied to Facebook, my best friend was currently an intern at Facebook. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, do you mind referring my resume before your internship ends? And he's like, yeah, don't worry, I can do it. So don't discount interns. Your friends that are interns at these companies can refer you. The issue is one thing you need to balance is if the application opens after your friend leaves the company, then that referral might not actually get seen. So focus first though on the people in your first degree network because these are going to be the easiest people to get referrals from. The next type of person that you can get a referral from is someone in your second degree network. These are going to be your friends of friends. So an example for me was at the time, one of my really good friends, her boyfriend worked at Google. So she asked him and she was like, hey, Matt, do you mind jumping on a phone call with a friend of mine who's really interested in Google? Me and Matt hopped on the phone for 30 minutes. We actually did a video chat. I asked him a bunch of questions about the culture, his experience, and kind of did he enjoy working at Google? And at the end, I was just like, hey, Matt, I'm really interested. This is one of my top choices. Do you mind referring me to Google? And Matt said, of course, no problem. Just send me your resume. These people are also going to be pretty easy. They're friends of friends. They know you through a commonality. It's not going to be a cold introduction. So how you really want to just go about this is you want to just start with LinkedIn and go through LinkedIn and looking for people and trying to find your first connections. And if you can find someone who a friend of yours knows who works at the company, reach out to your friend and just be like, hey, John, I'm really interested in working at Lyft. I see that your friend Matt works there. Would you mind introducing me? I'd love to jump on a phone call with him for 15 minutes. And that's really how you want to go about navigating, getting referrals and networking with people in your second degree connections. So the third type of person that you can get a referral from it's going to be your best bet, is an alumni from your school. So this is going to be a cold introduction, so you're going to have to hope that they're going to respond. Going to the University of Michigan, which is a school that has a great school spirit, I typically see about a 50% response rate when I reach out to alumni asking for a phone call. And schools with a big school spirit or really small schools that have tight-knit networks are going to have the best chance of getting responses from their alumni. But in this case, what you want to do is you want to go again on LinkedIn and look for people that work at that company. So I would just search Google looking for product managers, and I would want to find a product manager from the University of Michigan, and then I would politely reach out to them asking for a 15 to 30 minute phone call to talk more about their experience working as a product manager at that company. And then at the end, ask them for a referral. And then just to follow up on that, if there's no product managers from your school that work at a company, again, it doesn't matter what position they have. Product managers can be first because you're going to learn the most. And that referral might carry a bit weight, but not really. But anyone that works at that company will do in this situation. So the last person that you can really reach out to is anyone with a commonality. And the reason I say commonality is because you kind of need an introduction or something to bond with them over. The amount of people that just email me every day asking for a referral to Microsoft is astounding. And they literally just email me like, hey, do you mind referring me to Microsoft with a resume? You do not want to do that. That's not going to work. No one is going to refer you. It's just kind of rude. So what you want to do is, if no one, like say you want a referral for Microsoft and no one from your school is alumni that works at Microsoft, what you want to do is you want to go about finding someone with any commonality. So this could be the same country as you're from if you're an international student, the same high school, the same state, anything really, the same fraternity, played the same competitive sport, anything that you could just mess with them and be like, hey, I saw you do XYZ, so do I. I'm really interested in learning about Microsoft. Do you mind hopping on the phone call with me? This is just going to be slightly better, obviously, than just some cold random person. Just being able to introduce yourselves a little bit. For example, I would have a better chance of responding to someone if they reach out and be like, hey, I saw you're an Eagle Scout, so am I. I'm really interested in Microsoft. Do you mind jumping on a call with me? I'm more likely to talk to that person than I am someone who has nothing in common with me. And that's just really how people work. So that is the fourth type of person that I would look for. So reaching out to your first and second degree network should be pretty straightforward and really simple for you, but I've still included the instructions just in case you're confused. So with your first degree network, obviously you should be able to just reach out to them, simple email or text message. And I've included a template attached to this chapter, just in case you have trouble. With your second degree network, what you should do is, best case, is you want this to still be kind of in a formal environment. Either one, you should be creating a text messaging group chat if you're all kind of informal with each other. And if it's a bit more of a formal relationship, then it should be over email. So the way I would go about this is, in either case, basically, I would reach out to the person that I know and just be like, hey, Matt, can you introduce me to your friend so-and-so? Then Matt would go ahead and either create a group chat in text messaging or an email thread and connect the two of us and make that introduction. Philip, this is so-and-so, so-and-so, this is Philip. Philip is interested in applying to product management roles at your company. Would you mind jumping on a quick 15-minute phone call with him? And honestly, the person that's connecting the two of you before sending this email is most likely going to ask that other party if they're comfortable with it. That's the polite way to do it. But they'll make the introduction for you. But again, your first and second degree connections are going to be a bit more straightforward to connecting and getting in that phone call. So your alumni and people that you just have a commonality with are going to be much harder to connect with. And you're typically going to have to do this through email or LinkedIn messaging. But what I suggest is for email, sourcing it through LinkedIn, getting it through your school's database, or following my strategy that I've included in other chapters about how to source their email. And you just want to get their email. Once you get their email, then you're going to have to send that cold email introduction. And really the point of it is to set up the phone call. You don't really want to ask for the referral right away because that's just kind of a bad look. Sometimes you'll reach out to people and they'll say, I don't have enough time, but I'm willing to refer you. But anyway, you don't want to really just go and make that ask right away before you've never talked to the person, because you're going to have a lower success rate. You're going to have the highest success rate by emailing them, asking for a phone call, then asking for a referral. I would say that you're going to get anywhere between a 10 to 50% response rate from your alumni or people you have a commonality with. So what I suggest is typically email 2 to 3 people for each company, and hopefully at least one of them responds to your email and you're able to set that phone call up with one of them. I've included templates with this chapter that you can use to reach out to both of those parties. So you've gotten the connections, you've landed the phone call, now the phone call. So what I want you to do when you're on these phone calls is don't look at it like you're just getting a referral and it's a chore. You should be really looking at this as a learning opportunity. You have someone on the phone that either went through the interview process already or even conducts interviews on the phone with you. They work at the company. Use this as the opportunity to ask as many questions as possible. You should be asking about what their day-to-day is like. Do they enjoy working there? What's the culture like? Do they know about the role? Do they know about the interview process? And I've attached to this course an entire list of questions that you can ask them about. So on top of that, what I suggest is usually when these phone calls start, they're going to ask you, so just like tell me a little bit about yourself. Use this as your opportunity to practice your tell me about yourself. They should either compliment you at the end, be excited, really just gauge their response after you say it, and you can kind of use this as an opportunity to practice what you're going to say to them. And then on top of it, what I suggest is that this phone call is typically going to be anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. Don't keep them on the phone longer than 30 minutes unless they're really enjoying talking to you. But I've watched this happen where people didn't have the self-awareness that the other person on the end didn't enjoy the phone call, and they just kept asking them these very bland, generic questions. You don't want to ask questions that you can just look up online. You want to ask questions that you can only find out from talking to an employee. You want this phone call to be engaging and fun. The best phone calls I have are the interviewer asks me if I want a referral at the end, and they just thoroughly enjoy talking to me. Those are going to be your best phone calls. But even on my worst phone calls, like there was this one person I talked to that I'd ask her a question, she'd like barely give me a response. Either she didn't have much of a personality or she just really did not want to talk to me and was only doing it as a favor to her friend. But even on the worst of all those phone calls, at the end, if I asked them, I'm really interested in your company, do you mind referring me? They always say yes, because they were at one point in the same situation. They realized how important the referrals are. So again, ask really insightful questions that your interviewer is going to want to answer and will enjoy answering. Don't force your interviewer on the phone too long. Keep it engaging, and at the end, just simply and politely ask for a referral, and hopefully this video really puts you on the steps to networking better and getting the referrals you need for the job you want to apply to.